Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today for another great segment on Bidder's Corner. Today we're going to be talking about vintage toys, and we have Brian Welch with AZ Toys and Treasures.
Correct.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me today.
Are you excited?
I'm very excited.
Well, let's go over a couple of key points with you, and then we're going to move on to some of the stuff we've got coming up in the next few weeks here at EJ's. We have massive amounts of toys coming through, as you know, because you've been kind of wading through them the past couple of weeks with us. But let's start off first by let me ask you, what made you crazy?
Well,
or
for toys?
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, what got you into collecting toys?
It all started back in the 80s, late 70s, when when Kenner Toys came up with Star Wars toys, the 3 3/4 action figures. It turned into buying not just 1 to 12, but to collect all 92, 65, and then I stemmed from Star Wars into G.I. Joe, Masters of the Universe. They started making cartoons for kids, and then they started coming out with lines of toys specifically for those cartoons, which is kind of nice. So then now after you're watching those cartoons, you got to tell mom and dad well, go to the store, now I need this figure or that figure and that figure. It kind of just, now collecting them kind of brings me back to my childhood, which I really, really like.
Very cool. What have you seen as far as market trends for toys? What's hot, what's not, what's surprisingly hot, and what's surprisingly not?
Star Wars is usually always going to be the bread and butter of the toy community. Now, as Hollywood produces more movies, such as your G.I. Joe, your Ghostbusters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, anytime that they do like a reboot of a series, the vintage toy line starts to come back again, because those people who are a little bit older now want to have their toys back. So they try to find garage sales, auction houses, and luckily EJ's happens to have the majority of all these things coming up now. So you can always go back and rebuy your childhood just in the next few weeks here.
Well, let me ask you this. What's the most valuable toy? What is the coup de grace of a toy? What is the toy that's the most sought out after rare toy that you know out there? Well, I'm throwing you a kind of a
no, you're not. It's actually a pretty easy question. One of them that wasn't really produced was given away, not given away, but used as a toy fair in New York, I believe. It was a carded rocket firing Boba Fett figure, which I think goes for anywhere between $100,000 to $150,000.
Can we have like 3 of those in the back?
I wish you did. I really wish you did. But they also have some prototypes of just rocket firing Boba Fetts that go for about $20,000, $25,000, maybe more depending on the person. I prefer what you have coming up this week is one of the holy grails of the He-Man universe. It's called the Eternia playset. It was one of the largest playsets ever produced. I never had it. It was too expensive, and not a lot of kids had it in my neighborhood. But the thing probably stretches as big as this table, and it has the monorail system, which kind of goes around the whole thing. So if you've ever been to like a Walt Disney World and you see that train that goes around, same concept, and it goes around this whole playset.
Visiting the good people and the bad people. And
it's got a little bit of everything. It's got the good side on one of the castles, the bad side on the other side, with the Eternia in the middle, and it kind of goes around, and you can use all your figures and kind of play with it all at one time.
Would you say that's probably, with the Masters of the Universe toy collection, of the Masters of the Universe, is that probably the pinnacle of toys?
To me,
the most valuable?
I think it is. I think it's one of those play sets that eluded me for so many years. I see it every once in a while at a toy show around the U.S. Usually it's too expensive for me, and if I could get it, it would cost so much more money to ship back home. Luckily, it's here locally. You can get it. It's complete. It looks great, and I'm excited for this Saturday coming up so I can get a chance to hopefully get it.
Do you have $10,000 to blow on a toy like that? When you showed me what the prices of that particular one was on eBay, I think it was, you showed me, was crazy expensive. I'm shocked that it it commands that kind of money?
Well, when they come sealed and they're graded by either an AFA or a CAS, which is now in the business, and they get a high grade, usually you're going to get those serious collectors that'll throw out the $7,000 to $10,000 for a piece like that. This one is not sealed, but it is complete. It has the box, great graphics on it. You know, it could easily demand a few $1,000s, no problem.
Very cool. Do you see a trend for the future, a particular toy other than Star Wars?
Yep.
We know Star
Yep.
Wars is always going to be that it's always going to be collectible. Are you seeing any trends that any newer toys that you think are in the future are going to be collectible?
Well, one of the things that I always hope that toy companies do moving forward is, instead of mass producing everything where they make millions upon millions upon millions to $500 million in figures, if they came up with some decent figures, great articulation in limited quantities so that they didn't overproduce it, so they made it collectible. Now, as far as the future, what's going to be collectible, you got to start thinking 20 years in the past. So, for example, Power Rangers, which just came out as a movie within the last year, now Power Rangers collectibles are starting to come about again. That group of kids who liked it 20 years ago are now getting to that point of their age where they're like, well, I want to buy back some of that stuff that I had. Same with what my group is doing for Star Wars, Masters of the Universe, Ghostbusters, G.I. Joe, and so on. So you always have to look, when you look ahead, you almost have to look back to see what was really popular at that time frame. And then that's what you want to focus on.
Okay. So we know Eternity is one of your favorite.
Yes.
Next to that, what is a toy that you would most like to have in your collection?
Well, another one of the toys that we came close to putting together was the USS Flag.
Yes.
And that's coming up here in, I think, on the 15th?
Yeah, it's 15th.
The 15th. We're going to have a bunch of G.I. Joe stuff. We came close to putting it together. We were missing a few pieces, but we have a great starter set for that USS Flag. It is a great purchase, and I hope to get that one. It stretches 7 feet long. It's a big aircraft carrier. And
What year did that come out in?
1986, I believe it came out in.
Do you remember what the price was for that toy?
Oh, if I had to take a guess, it was probably like around $169.99 around that.
And
that was a lot of money back then.
$160 for a toy. I mean, my parents gave me a paper bag to play with.
Yeah.
You know, from the grocery store. That was my toy. And if you talk to Jimmy, our general manager, you know, his parents gave him a rock.
Yeah,
Said, "Here."
that was probably too much.
This is a pet rock, and
Yeah.
next thing you know, if they would have copyrighted it, he'd have been a billionaire.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a lot, you know. Same with the Eternia. The Eternia, not only was it expensive, but if you look at the size of the box, it took up a lot of real estate at like a Kmart or a Shopko if you're from the Midwest or any of those kind of places. It was a lot to have on the shelf. They only had maybe one, maybe two, or if you were lucky, and then that was about it. They didn't get any more in. That's what makes them kind of rare.
So it was only the special kids that got them.
Only the special kids that got them.
Condition is everything. I would probably say.
Absolutely. You know, not only with just toy collectibles, but a lot of other collectibles as well. It's all about condition. You get something in good condition, you know, I'll pay a better price as long as it's mint condition and it's great.
All right, great. Remember that, folks. If you have those toy collections out there and you don't know what to do with them, sitting in a box in a garage, where surprisingly the few collections that we have coming up in the next few weeks, this was all in storage by a lifetime collector whose mother had actually worked for FisherPrice. So that's when he started collecting the wooden figures of FisherPrice. Spent more than 40 years collecting this collection that we're starting out with, the Masters of the Universe, this coming Saturday, July 8th. And then 15th is the G.I. Joe and Hot Wheels. And then July 22nd, it looks like we're going to move back to the Star Wars, FisherPrice Play School. And then the last one will be his Western toy collection, everything from horses to wagons to figures to all that type of stuff. This gentleman's collection filled a 26-foot truck, 26-foot box truck, front to back, the cab of the truck. It was a crazy collection. This is actually the second part. The first part of his collection was the Star Wars collection that we did last year. I don't remember. I think it was December.
Yep.
December of last year, where we had fantastic Star Wars stuff. Just so happens that we picked up another collector's Star Wars stuff that you're getting ready to get
excited about that too.
But we're very excited. So if you're a toy collector, you don't want to miss the next month of auctions here at EJ's Auction and Consignment. Thanks for joining us to Bidder's Corner. Thank you again, Brian, for coming. Any parting words?
Yes, there is a few things that I wanted to mention that's coming up here. Along with the G.I. Joe stuff, there's some 1960 stuff that Erik had been putting together. Really, really nice stuff. High collectible 12-inch action figures, along with some big Jim toys. And we also could have some Matt Mason toys coming up too. As well.
And Evil Knievel.
And Evil Knievel.
We got a few Evil Knievel.
So even though we just talked about a few things, trust me, there's actually plenty more to go through, and there's a lot of stuff from the 60s, 70s, and 80s that we didn't mention that's going to be in rings 1, 2, or 3. So come on down each week for the next month or two and check everything out, especially if you're a huge toy collector.
All right, awesome. Thanks for coming out today.
Thank you again. Appreciate it.
We'll see you next time.